Hi, everybody. This is SAAD for the SAAD Truth. Whoopi Goldberg, 2 days ago on January 31st, on The View, stated the following. So I quote, "So let me ask you now, we have a leader," she's referring to Donald Trump, "who has repeatedly demeaned women, wants to defund organizations that benefit women, calling on the media to shut up, specifically wants to give preferential treatment based on religion. Are these values really much different than the Taliban's?" Now, I watched the full clip, which I will attach at the bottom of in the description section, say the six plus minute clip, to see if one could grant her hyperbolic license. Right? She was just engaging in funny hyperbole. Of course, she wasn't. She doubled down. She was very clear that Trump and the Taliban are two sides of the same coin. She wasn't in any way joking. And so, what I thought I would do today is read for you. This is from the Wikipedia page. If you just enter Taliban on Wikipedia, so this is as access today on February 2nd, 2017. I won't read you all of the abuses, I'll just read you some. And whatever is here is actually a gross understatement of what the Taliban's values are. And remember, I read you what she considers to be indistinguishable from the Taliban when it comes to Donald Trump, that he demeaned women, that he wants to defund organizations that benefit women. I'm guessing she means Planned Parenthood, that calling on the media to shut up, specifically wants to give preferential treatment based on religion. I'm guessing there she's referring to the so-called Muslim ban, because of course there is absolutely no all religions are indistinguishable when it comes to the likelihood of them causing global mayhem. So let me read now for you. Excuse my cough. I have a bit of a cold. Some of the human rights abuses from the Taliban. So here we go. This is I'm reading now verbatim from the Wikipedia page. So massacre campaigns. According to a 55-page report by the United Nations, the Taliban, while trying to consolidate control over northern and western Afghanistan, committed systematic massacres against civilians. UN officials stated that there had been 15 massacres between 1996 and 2001. I won't read you all of the various massacres, but let me just kind of mention one or two of them. In 1998, the United Nations accused the Taliban of denying emergency food by the UN's World Food Program to 160,000 hungry and starving people, a quote, for political and military reasons. The UN said the Taliban were starving people for their military agenda and using humanitarian assistance as a weapon of war. On August 8th, 1998, the Taliban launched an attack on Mazar-e-Sharif. Of 1,500 defenders, only 100 survived the engagement. Once in control, the Taliban began to kill people indiscriminately. At first shooting people in the street, they soon began to target Hazaras. Women were raped and thousands of people were locked in containers and left to suffocate. This ethnic cleansing left an estimated 5,000 to 6,000 dead. And as I said, there are many, many other genocidal atrocities, but you get the general idea. So now let's move on to human trafficking. Several Taliban and Al-Qaeda commanders ran a network of human trafficking, abducting women and selling them into sex slavery in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So far, it seems identical to Donald Trump stating an idiotic and obnoxious comment, which he thought was private. Of course, not that if it's private, it's any less obnoxious, but again, let's look at here the moral equivalence. They abducted and sold women into sexual slavery. He said some grotesque comment to some TV host. The targets for human trafficking were especially women from the Tajik, Uzbek, Hazara, and other ethnic groups in Afghanistan. That type of bigotry is okay for Whoopi Goldberg. Some women preferred to commit suicide over slavery, killing themselves. During one Taliban and Al-Qaeda offensive in 1999 in the Somali plains alone, more than 600 women were kidnapped. Arab and Pakistani al-Qaeda militants with local Taliban forces forced them into trucks and buses. Time magazine writes, quote, "The trail of the missing Somali women leads to Jalabad, not far from the Pakistan border. There, according to witnesses, the women were penned up into Sar Shahi campaign in the desert. The more desirable among them were selected and taken away. Some were trucked to Peshawar with the apparent complicity of Pakistani border guards. Others were taken to Ghost, where bin Laden had several training camps." Close quotes. Officials from relief agencies say the trail of many of the vanished women leads to Pakistan, where they were sold to brothels or into private households to be kept as slaves, absolutely indistinguishable from Donald Trump. Let's move on now to the oppression of women. Again, whatever I read for you here is a minuscule representation of what the Taliban does. To Physicians for Human Rights Knowledge, no other regime in the world has methodically and violently forced half of its population into virtual house arrest, prohibiting them on pain of physical punishment. The Taliban were condemned internationally for their brutal repression of women. In areas they controlled, the Taliban issued edicts which forbade women from being educated. Girls were forced to leave schools and colleges. Those who wished to leave their home to go shopping had to be accompanied by a male relative and were required to wear the burqa, a traditional dress covering the entire body except for a small screen to see out of. Those who appeared to disobey were publicly beaten. In February 1998, religious police forced all women off the street of Kabul. If only somebody would force Whoopi Goldberg from our collective conscience, and issued new regulations ordering people to blacken their windows so that women would not be visible from the outside. By the way, the passages that I'm reading for you are not contiguous. I'm reading, several passages from the Wikipedia entry, just so that I don't sit there and read to you the very long Wikipedia entry. But as I said, it's all there for you today in today's Wikipedia entry if you search under Taliban. Let's move on to terrorism against civilians. According to the United Nations, the Taliban were responsible for 76% of civilian casualties in Afghanistan in 2009, 75% in 2010, and 80% in 2011. Yes, absolutely indistinguishable from Donald Trump, who said that women should be grabbed by their, to use the current euphemism, lady parts. Schools and houses are routinely booby-trapped. Snipers shelter in houses deliberately filled with women and children. I'm sure that Donald Trump does exactly that. When kids come to visit the White House, he blows them up, rapes them, and then decapitates them. Absolutely indistinguishable, two sides of the same coin. Donald Trump is no different from the Taliban. The Taliban has often targeted health officials that work to immunize children against polio due to fears of the vaccine, including the fear that it is used to gather intelligence about their organization. You see, they're the same. The Taliban are anti-science, and Donald Trump is anti-science. Indistinguishable. The Taliban hate women, Donald Trump hates women. The Taliban kill everything that moves and dig up people who are already dead and kill them again. And Donald Trump argues that there might be people who come from certain countries that are at a greater risk of terrorism. So they're indistinguishable. As a matter of fact, I'm so confused now that if I visit the US, I'm wondering whether I live under an Islamic theocracy, because I personally can't tell the difference anymore between the Taliban and Donald Trump. Yesterday, towards the end of my chat with Dan Dennett, I posed the following question and made the following point. I argued that the current public discourse is one where people have utterly succumbed to a tribal mindset, whereas oftentimes when I weigh in on these issues, it's not because, when I say produced the current clip, it's not because I support Donald Trump. It's because I am offended by the attack. I am offended by the jihad against truth. Because as I explained to Dennett yesterday, I was explaining my position. I was arguing that the pursuit of truth, the aesthetics of truth, is a fundamentally much more important goal than adhering to tribal mindset. To adhere to tribal mindsets, despite the fact that it goes against truth, means that you are an intellectually dishonest person, right? And so when Whoopi Goldberg uses her gigantic platform that reaches endless number of people to make, I mean, truly deeply offensive comparisons. Now, again, let's put it another way. Let's suppose you had somebody get up when President Obama was president, and draw a comparison to Obama that was clearly, racist. Then people would be outraged, rightly so, that this person is being racist in his comparison. Okay. By which logic, by which calculus does comparing Donald Trump to a genocidal, monstrous, grotesque, an affront to human decency, I'm referring to the Taliban, how is that something that all of my bien-pensant, quote, liberal friends find perfectly acceptable? If you find that an attack on President Obama is racist, because some, say, comedian, some idiot made a joke that is perceived as racist, and then you become indignant about the attack on President Obama, then I would venture to you that nothing that's ever been said about Obama potentially comes close to comparing the current president to the Taliban, right? Unless, of course, maybe Obama at some point might have been compared to, I don't know, Hitler, but I suspect that usually Hitler comparisons are reserved for, the Nazi Republicans. So there you have it, folks. I'm weighing in here again because I'm seeing the complete disintegration of rationality, of measured thinking, of decency, of civility. And I'm seeing this not among only, idiots like Whoopi Goldberg, but I see it in the context of my academic landscape, where otherwise perfectly decent, sophisticated, intellectual folks are sinking into an abyss of lunacy whereby all bets are off, whereby they double down in the most just bafflingly grotesque manner because of their partisanship. You dislike Donald Trump? Great. Tell us the reasons why. Doubling down on him being absolutely no different in the values that drive him from those that drive the Taliban is an affront to human decency, it is an affront to human dignity, and it is an affront to everything that is just and good in the world.